Hi, my name is Julie Ursi. I am Solution Advisor Business Intelligence at SAP Belux. In this tutorial video, I would like to introduce you to the new Lumira 2.0 discovery. Since Lumira 2.0 is not yet generally available, I have added a disclaimer. Lumira 2.0 is primarily about people. It's about bringing business users and IT departments together so both their needs are met. We are doing this by simplifying the user and administrator experience to make it much easier for users to get started with data discovery and enabling business users to work in real time directly off governed data, thus eliminating data silos. Once business has done their data analysis and built a nice dashboard to share their findings, they can also decide to hand over their dashboards to IT. IT can then further enhance and pimp the story to a real corporate dashboard or an enterprise app. Both business and IT are working in the same tool, but with their own interface that provides them with their own specific functionality. This way, business and IT can work together on building dashboards. Design and build time is strongly reduced as now business can prototype and IT can continue on the work business has done. In this video, I will show you how business can do their analysis and build their dashboard with Lumira Discovery. The workflow starts by acquiring the data, then preparing the data by merging and enriching it. When the data has been prepared, business can start analyzing by building beautiful visualizations. Finally, they can share their story with their colleagues. Let's have a look at how business users can do this in Lumira 2.0 Discovery. This is a new SAP Lumira Discovery. Lumira Discovery allows users to analyze their data and share their findings in a nice dashboard. Users can open their local documents that they created before, or they can connect to the SAP BI platform to retrieve Lumira stories available there. When analyzing the data, we can connect to any data source, including BW and HANA Live. In this case, I want to connect to a Microsoft Excel file on my PC. I'm going to open some controlling information to analyze it. I can select all the columns that I want to analyze and then upload all the information into Lumira. As you can see, Lumira has changed, this to make it more user-friendly and easier to use. We now have one canvas where we do all our analysis and build our story. On the left-hand side, we can find all the different measures and dimensions available in our dataset. We can also switch to design mode, and then we can change the layout and the format of the different charts and of the story. The first thing we want to do before starting our analysis in Lumira Discovery is enhance the data. For this, we can switch to Data View. We can find back here all the measures and dimensions available to us, and we can change them. We can enrich them with new information. First thing we want to do is take a look at the date information. In this case, we have a date, but Lumira doesn't recognize it as a date, so we're going to convert it. Now we have a date available in our dataset. What we want to do is be able to drill down from year level to date level. For this purpose, we're going to create a hierarchy. Hierarchies are very important in Lumira as they allow us to drill down to the detailed level of the information. The basis of our analysis will be a P&L hierarchy. We don't have the hierarchy in our dataset, and we only have the lowest level, the P&L elements. This means we want to add some groupings to the P&L elements. We can either do this manually by using one of the functions available to change the data, for example, the group by, but in this case, we have the groupings available on an Excel file on our PC. So we're going to add this information. I have here the P&L file for the groupings. We find here the P&L elements that we have already in our dataset and the groupings assigned to them. Now I have both datasets available to me in my story. What I need to do now is link them together. There are three ways to link the data. We can either merge the information, for example, when we have attribute information that we want to add to the already existing file, But we can also append datasets, for example, when we have monthly figures coming in. We can also link the datasets when we have two datasets with different granularity and we still want to be able to analyze across these datasets on an aggregated level. In this case, we're talking about adding P&L groupings, so we're going to merge the datasets. When we merge them, we can define on what level we want to merge them, in this case, the P&L elements. We can choose here a left outer join or an inner join. When we merge the data, the P&L groups will become available to us in our original dataset. Now, next thing we need to do is actually create the hierarchy. So we're going to create the hierarchy and we're going to custom create it. We have the P&L groups and the lower level will be the P&L elements. And just like that, we created a new P&L hierarchy. This P&L hierarchy will allow us to do some analysis down to the detailed level of the P&L elements by starting first on a group level. We also want to be able to analyze our controlling information on a map. Luckily, in this case, we have some geographical information available in our dataset. We have the country and the city. In order to be able to plot the information on a map, we need to create a geographical hierarchy. In this case, we create the hierarchy based on the names, since we don't have the long lat codes. Lumira will then check whether it finds back the city and the country in its database in order to plot them on the map. In this case, all the values are available. So now we have a geographical hierarchy available to plot on a map. Another important aspect of enriching your data is to be able to clean your data. When we uploaded P&L groups, we can take a look at what is available in the P&L groups. We can see the different values and we can see how many of these values occur. When we look at the data available in the P&L groups, we can quickly see that there are two values that actually should be the same and one is wrong. We need to clean this up. We can clean it up by replacing the value with the correct one. Once the data is cleaned up, we can now see that only correct values are available. There are many other functions that you can use to clean and enrich the data. You can find them back in the context menu. And the nice thing is that all these changes are reapplied when you refresh the data, so the changes are not lost. We can also create calculations, either based on dimensions, but we can also create new measures, new KPIs. In this case, what we want to do is create a new KPI that calculates the delta between a budget and the actual. And we have added a new KPI that we can later reuse in our analysis. Now that we are done with the preparation of our data by enriching it, changing it, and cleaning it, we can actually start our analysis by switching to Design View. Now that our data has been uploaded and prepared, we're ready to start our analysis. In Lumira 2.0, we work with only one page where we do both our analysis and our story building. On the left-hand side, we find all the measures and dimensions available to us in our dataset. We can also switch to design mode, where we can then change the layout and the format of our charts and our story. On top, we can then insert new charts for our story. We can also switch back to data view, where we prepared our data, or we can switch to preview mode, where we can watch what our story will look like for our end users. Let's first take a look at an important page setting. Here we can change the size of the page. Like before, we have standard, extended and rolling, but we can also change the size to BI Launchpad. And this means that we can easily open the story from the BI Launchpad. Now we're ready to start analyzing and building our story. We've already inserted one chart, and now we can add the data that we want to analyze. In this case, I want to make a simple comparison, actual, budget and forecast per country. You see how easy we can create a chart by simply dragging and dropping the objects that we need. Just like that, we built our first chart. Now we can analyze this chart in more detail by going to Maximize. In this detailed analysis view, there's much more we can do with the chart. We can change the design, we can change the fields that we're showing in the chart, and we can add functionality. Let's take a look. First, we want to add the data labels so we can see the figures. Then we want to do some comparison. We can add a dynamic reference line on the budget numbers so we can actually compare them. This way we can see that France has an above average budget and the other countries below. With Lumira 2.0 we can customize our charts even more. For every measure we can make some selections. We can choose which chart type, and we can also assign to a secondary axis. For example, when we add the budget delta percentage, it's going to be a very small number. So we are going to want to display it on the secondary axis. We also want to display the forecast as a line rather than a bar. Now I would like to undo my action. I also want to remove the budget delta. Let's now go back to our main canvas and continue our analysis. Let's first resize so we can see the entire canvas. Now we want to add a KPI tile. We do this by adding a numeric point. We can simply choose the measure that we want to look at as a KPI, and then we can change the design of the KPI tile. We can change the background, and we can change also the color and the size of the value. We then also want to change the color of the chart title. And we have a new KPI tile that we can now reuse. To reuse, we can simply copy the tile, and then we can paste it anywhere on the canvas or on one of the following pages. By then switching the actual by the budget, we created the second KPI tile. Now let's rearrange our story a little bit to make it more clear for our users. We want to make our story interactive. To do that, we can generate an input control. First of all, we need to define a filter. There are several options to create the filter, and we can also make it a more complex one by adding several filters. In this case, we want to have all of them to allow the user to make their own decision. Now that we have a filter, we can simply drag it onto the canvas to create an input control. We can choose different type of controls, and in this case we want to have a list. Let's see how that works in preview mode. Now when we deselect one of the countries, automatically both the tiles and the charts that are available in the canvas will change. Let's go back to design view to create some other input controls. Another type of input control is a date input control. Here we want to select a range of dates that are available to us. When we again drag the filter on the canvas, we can have an input control of the type date. As you can see, we can also move the objects on top of each other, unlike the previous version of Lumira. Now we want to create a third type of filter. When we select a range, we can use a slider input control. So when we drag the year selector on the canvas, we can here select control type slider. Let's see how this works again in preview mode. Here we can select a date, any kind of date or multiple ones, and here we can simply change the slider. And as you can see, All charts and tiles will change along. Let's go back to design view. Now that we have made our story or dashboard interactive, we can continue working on it. Let's add a pie chart. We want to analyze the actual per P&L group. As you might already notice, the data labels have been improved. We can change the design of these data labels in the design mode. We can decide not to have them overlap, and we can also decide what they show. Standard, it will show the category name and percentage, but we can decide to show only the name. There are also some color options. We can change the color by changing the palette. And as you can see, the new Lumira Discovery has been enhanced with 2 extra colors. We can also customize the palette by creating a new one and saving it as a new palette so it can be reused across the different charts. Another interesting chart when analyzing data is a heat map. Let's add one. We want to analyze the budget numbers per P&L groups and then per country. This way, we can easily identify the outliers or the exceptions. It's a very useful tool during your analysis. In some cases, it will be needed to add a table to your analysis. In Lumira, we can add a crosstab. The easiest way to start working with a crosstab is by going into detailed analysis mode. Here, you can then add all the measures and the dimensions that you would like to analyze. And we want to add the year in the columns to create a real crosstab. And now we can start changing the layout of our table. To start with, we can expand the columns one by one. We can also change the format of the figures. We can apply a scaling factor, for example 1000, and the scaling factor will be shown in the header. A context menu is available for every cell in your table and allows you to customize your table. For starters, we want to add the totals. We want to add the totals both in the rows and the columns. There are several options to add totals. You can hide the totals if there's only one member. You can select multiple totals and you can show them. We want to do the same for the rows and the columns. Now we can change the formatting of the table. We can change either the header or the value. Let's change the font type to italic and let's make the title a bit bigger. We can also change the background color. Like in the previous versions of Lumira, we can apply a conditional formatting. However, with the new Lumira Discovery, we can now also apply a conditional formatting on the dimension. As you can see, we can choose here between the measure and the dimension in order to build a new formatting rule. I want to create a new conditional formatting on a dimension. I want to highlight certain cities. So I can choose the cities that I want to highlight in my table. I want to fill the cells with a light green. And when I apply the conditional formatting, in the table you will see the highlighted cities. We're now finished with customizing our table. Let's go back to our dashboard. Our dashboard is almost finished, but it still requires a title. We can add a text field. We can give it our own description. and then customize the title. We also want to change the background. We can do this either with an image or a color. And then to finalize, we also want to add the logo of our company. I hope you can see how easy it is to build a dashboard with the new Lumira Discovery. Thanks for watching this video and have fun building dashboards with Lumira Discovery.